Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for December 17th, 2024. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we're streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share your questions and
Facebook.
comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's Weekly Tittle, which was called Set a Limit. The assignment was to decide what criteria will determine your limit on a collection that is getting out of control. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook. Who decided on a limit, a number, a volume, an algorithm, or any other limiting factor for a category or collection of stuff this week? Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer Isaiah4216 commented on the title by sharing their limit on workplace mementos. Isaiah4216 writes, I don't want to be reminded of the negative aspects. Each time I leave a job, I purge any belongings, cups, knickknacks, awards, etc., before my last day. They don't get an opportunity to invade my sanctuary of peace. The only exception is a birthday gift from someone I was and still am close to.
Good for you. You're very clear about what can come into your space. So it stays a sanctuary of peace to you. Old job items don't make the cut. And so you don't even bring them home, which is great because a lot of us don't stop to do that process first when you just sort of throw everything in a box and take it home like you're going to deal with it later. And that's how we end up with those boxes in the house. So you're skipping that process completely by editing it and purging it while you're finishing up the job, which I think is excellent. And it's really very respectful of your space to do that. Like, you're like, this is my peaceful place. I'm not bringing anything in that doesn't support that. And so good for you that you've done it that way. And a good example to others that
Right?
you don't just have to throw it all in a box and bring it home to deal with it later or deal with it after you retire. We have a lot of deal with it later boxes, but you're being very proactive and doing the work up front, which is really where we all want to get.
Yeah, I think it's a great it is a great point to make. It's a that's the best time to evaluate the stuff you're bringing home from a job is
Yes.
right after you get done with that job,
While you're sitting there and it's fresh in your mind and
because you're not going to your enthusiasm for going through that stuff is only going to taper off after this point.
right, it's only going to diminish.
It's going to get stale really fast.
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that people get hung up on is this happens a lot when people retire and they all the things that have been super important for them to execute their job suddenly are not important because you're not actually doing that job anymore.
Right.
But we still bring home a lot of, well, I'm going to need all these reference materials. I'm going to need all these contact lists. No, you don't. You're not doing the job anymore. Your life just changed completely. You just did a 180. And so all the things that you think that you're going to bring home with you because you're going to need them is just a reflection of the fact that you haven't quite adjusted in your mind to what retirement means. And that retiring means you're not going to do the job anymore. You're not going to need the things to do the job because you're not doing the job. And I think that uh, people retiring particularly suffer from this because if they're leaving the job because they're retiring instead of quitting a job, changing jobs, whatever, it puts you in a position of, but I like this work, but I've been doing this work for 5 years or 20 years or whatever. And so it lends itself to you keeping it, even though you're actually having a life transition where you're going to stop doing that work for the first time ever. And then you end up with a bunch of stuff at home that you can't really use anymore, and you have to find some place to do it. So there you
Eh,
go.
Um, Jane says, for clothes, my limit this year has been one in, two out. If I want
Ooh,
something, I need to be willing to let two similar items go.
And has it worked? Like, that's great. If you've been keeping that up, I'm sure you've, for a whole year, you've been seeing a significant change in the closet at this point. One in and two out is a good ratio.
CJ says, started with sorting out some large kitchenware collections like good and useful repurposed jars, etc. Good and useful in quotation marks, repurposed jars, etc. But I got overwhelmed before I finished. Thankfully, hubby was finally available to help with the heavy lifting for the previous week's tittle I wanted to do, removing the temporary, that's in quotes, home office desk setup taking over half the living room that had
Uh-oh.
become a dusty, cluttered monument to when all our lives were on Zoom. We once again have plenty of space in our living area for the exercising that we are actually doing,
Oh, that's cool.
and it's now being used for cat zooming. Even our lazy cat, fat cat is running back and forth across the room. The different cat zooming is different from human zooming.
Yes. That's cute. That's awesome. And it is it's like we needed that. It was a temporary setup. It just wasn't, the few months that we thought it was going to be. It was a few years before that became unnecessary again. And so I'm glad that you've reclaimed your living room. That's wonderful. And, now the cat has a place to Zoom with you. And so that's awesome.
Samudra
Uh,
shared, I'm setting limits constantly. My breakthrough this month was bumping into a name for my decorating style, dark academic.
Dark academic is the style.
Yes.
Okay.
So
As
one
in dark wood and yeah.
one criterion has become give me that witchy vibe or leave.
I like it. See, you're holding a vibe, you're holding a style in your head, and you're using that as the filter parameter. So if it doesn't match, it doesn't needs to stay. And that's excellent. You don't need to squirrel it away somewhere. If it doesn't work for what you want to be living in, then it doesn't need to stay there with you. So good job for figuring out the style and using it as the filter.
Ginger commented, and I should say Ginger confesses. Somewhere in my garage is a box of training materials from my last training I conducted the last week of my job in November 2012. It was in my trunk, got moved to the garage floor, then my husband put it on a shelf.
And off and away it went, right into the background. So that
Set
would
it.
be a perfect box to go and snatch right off the shelf and open and look at that and go, oh yeah, I don't need any of that, and put it straight in the recycling bin. That would be a great thing to do. And
Yeah.
suddenly you'll have a space on a shelf that wasn't there before in the garage.
Yes, exactly. I was also going to add on the subject of stuff you brought home from old jobs or stuff you brought home after retirement,
Mm.
that all that reading material that had accumulated in your office or cubicle that you told yourself you were going to read someday, and so you brought it home for that purpose, you're probably not going to do it.
No, no, no,
Go
no, no,
ahead
no.
and start sorting through it with a very, very harsh take.
The other thing that people bring home a lot is materials from training classes that they took. Somehow the idea of it's a similar field for all the books that you save and materials that you save when you are in university, for instance, and you're spending all that time on those college classes and you're working really hard and you got the master's degree or whatever you did that you put a whole bunch of effort into. And then somehow those materials that you sweated and bled over seem very, very important. And you don't realize that, yeah, as an adult and when I'm doing my job, I'm never going to refer to these things again. This was the vehicle with which I became an expert in this area, and I don't need to look at those books anymore. And I'm on to the next things. I'm using the materials that are pertinent and current now. I'm using materials that the workplace is providing. Blah blah blah. The science has evolved. My field of study has changed and morphed, and I don't need the stuff that I started out with. So we end up with a lot, and the workplace equivalent of that is you do, development, personal development in your field, and you're taking training classes that are related to your company or related to your business, and you spend a whole bunch of time going to those classes. And then, you come home and stick those up on a shelf because you're going to look at them again, or you're
Hmm.
going to, transcribe the notes, or you're going to fill in the blank. And whether or not you actually accomplish all those things, when you leave that job, those things are immediately not important. Yet people still feel attached to them like they feel attached to college books, and they bring it all home. And it's like you're not going to open that. You're not going to play that tape again. You're not going to look at those lecture notes again. You're not. No, it's not happening. Get a grip. You have a million other things to do in retirement. Then go back and look at your old trainings. And so the fact that they were up on a shelf in your office does not need to come home and be up on a shelf in your house. Throw those out, throw those out, throw those out.
Okay, one more follow-up. Jane, who said she's doing one in, two out,
Mm.
says, yes, it has worked and it's much easier to hang my clothes now, more space.
Isn't that great? Like
So
you
she
forget
has
how when it gets
stuck
so
with it.
tight. Yeah, that's wonderful. And you're seeing the results exactly that it's easier for you to hang up, the clean clothes came out of the laundry and you can go hang them up so much easier. You don't have to fight to get them in there. That's great. That's exactly what you're aiming for. Ease of use of the closet. Good job, Jane.
All right, I think we'd better move on because we have a lot to talk about. We are
Mm.
counting down the remaining days until the new year. 14 days left. Can you believe
No, no, I cannot.
it?
Phew.
This struck us as a great time to celebrate the decluttering and organizing progress that you've made in 2024 and to make plans for a successful 2025. Today, we're going to explore how to choose, plan, and strategize your next organizing projects.
I don't know about y'all, but for the first time in a long time, I am ready to kick a year to the curb. 2024 was a year of shocks for me. First, the unplanned move, which ultimately ended in me buying a house this summer. Then my knee injury happened and brought all physical movement to a screeching halt. My plan to be unpacked from the move by the year end went right out the window. And as an organizer, let me just tell you how much that annoys me that I could not unpack my house for a while. So as I go through the last days of 2024, I am looking forward to 2025 rolling around and leaving these experiences behind. I've had it. With the new year comes a new plan, of course, and I'm looking forward to setting some goals for my home and finishing up the move. So that because it got stalled, I really want to get back to it and get back to unpacking. I've been in physical therapy for 3 months and I can walk around unaided again, although things still hurt and I can't go at my usual speed yet, but I can see light at the end of the tunnel. So we're gonna talk about making plans for organizing a little bit, but we wanted to hear from you first. So let's start by talking about our survey responses. We asked our audience, what was your proudest decluttering, organizing, or productivity achievement for 2024? Many of you reported on your proud moments, and it was an amazing list. So let's listen to some of the successes from 2024.
Okay, Kathy says, I purged, packed, and moved to a smaller house, one without a basement or a garage. A small shed took the place of the garage.
Anybody with downsizing plans knows that this is a huge project and a huge accomplishment. Congrats on getting there, Kathy. I know packing up and moving to a smaller house is a whole big project. And so I can see in my head all the work that you did. Super proud of you that you got there. Yay.
On the flip side, Zoe says, we moved into a bigger house in October, and I still purged a phenomenal amount before move day. I'm thrilled with the house to stuff ratio now. I held a couple of jam-packed driveway donation events, posting pics in a local free stuff group, and people came and grabbed everything. We also donated 30 plus boxes to an agency helping unhoused people, and I
Mm.
found a thrift store benefiting a local children's hospital. Knowing proceeds went to a good cause made it so much easier to part with nice vintage items I didn't have the time or energy to sell.
So you really benefited so many people with your giveaways. I'm sure as a result, all that work now, you can fit much more comfortably into your new place. Plus, you saved all that money on the move. So great job. And I'm sure it was a massive amount of work, but I love the idea of having a big giveaway event, like putting a whole bunch of stuff on the driveway and going to the free stuff group on, the buy nothing group, maybe on Facebook or whoever you contacted, and had people come and be your walk away legs. Like you didn't have to do the work of carrying it away. Those people came to your driveway and picked the stuff up and walked off with it. And so you didn't have to do that extra physical work, which is wonderful. I appreciate that you recruited people to benefit yourself in that way and to benefit them at the same time. So good job.
Lynn says her biggest decluttering win this year was making $900 at my garage sale this summer that enabled me
Ooh.
to dispose of a lot of items. She says, I lowered prices enough to ensure people took things away, even gave away a lot of stuff for free. I was more interested in the stuff leaving than making a lot of money from it. Everything remaining fit into my car for a final load to the charity shop, and I was finally done with the majority of decluttering my inherited house.
That is a great finish. Finally, decluttering an inherited home is a long-term project. I'm sure that you're really relieved to get that over with and get it over the finish line. And I'm sure that that was a huge amount of stuff that had to go out the door. And so good for you getting that done. Woohoo. And now the inherited home is yours and it is going to have your stuff in it and only the stuff that you want. That's awesome.
Well, and if we were to put together a four-part recipe for garage sale success, Lynn has kind of outlined it here. Lowered prices enough to ensure people took things away,
Right?
gave away a lot of stuff for free,
Right?
was more interested in stuff leaving than making money,
Yes.
and everything left over fit into the car for a final load to the charity shop.
Like went to the charity shop. And even with all
Perfect.
those parameters and lowering the prices and giving things away for free, she still made $900. So, I mean, it wasn't like she prevented herself from making any money at all. And still everything disappeared. And that's the ultimate goal is that the stuff that you don't want walks off. So good job.
Christine reports, I decluttered, reorganized, and cleaned the entire basement. Got rid of all cardboard boxes, most of which had become damp. To replace the cardboard boxes, I repurposed my waterproof plastic totes to store excess items like paper towels and cleaning products.
Ooh, damn cardboard is the worst. So glad you cleared that out. Basements are usually the last spaces to get organized, so congrats on getting that done. I see lots of commentary on here about basements as projects and people ignoring them because, a basement isn't exactly part of the public space that people go to all the time, so it's easy to ignore it. But if you had a bunch of damp cardboard down there, ooh, 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 and I'm glad you got it out. Good job.
Allison says, I've made great progress this year letting go of sentimental items.
Mm.
Saying goodbye to things that belong to deceased family members is a lot harder than dumping five excess mixing bowls or t-shirts.
100%. You're right that the sentimental stuff is the hardest to let go. But if you were able to let go of things from family members, then you've done good this year. If you stepped up to that plate and faced it and were able to release some of that stuff, then you're adding to your filter. You're improving your ability to filter stuff with practice and getting things out of the house that you don't want to keep. So good job. Everybody's doing good. Everybody's stories are good today.
Okay, Leela says, after my mother-in-law passed away, I decluttered, deep cleaned, repainted, and organized the half of our house that she had added on 20 years ago. I prepared it in case my mother or daughter ever needs to live there.
Leela, you've reclaimed a section of your house ready for the next guest. That's really a major project to complete, including repainting and everything. That's a lot of work, but how great that you've sort of reset the room, reset the area, and now it can be a guest room for the next collection of people that want to come and be with you. So that's really awesome.
Okay, I love the next survey respondent's nickname. Blue Nose Brenda says Blue Nose Brenda says her proudest moment was selling several dozen antique glass tree ornaments.
Mm.
She says, we downsized our 6.5 foot white and silver Martha Stewart artificial tree. A 4 foot real tree can't take the lovely large balls and icicles. The Martha Stewart tree is now in the window display of our friend's art gallery, surrounded by baby pink trees. It looks amazing lit up at night in their window.
How cool that you can see how the tree was repurposed. Congrats on making that happen. Like you can go down to the gallery and see your tree, and I'm sure that big, tall, fancy silver tree makes perfect sense in an art gallery window. I'm sure it was perfect for them. What a great way to dispose of it and downsize at the same time. Good job. That's a great landing place for that tree.
Yvonne says, my proudest decluttering achievement was my identity shift. At the beginning of 2024, I did not have clarity on my present self, and my home reflected that. I had a lot of anticipatory and former self clutter. Getting clear on who I am in this moment allowed me to remove items from my past that were no longer serving me, and
Mm.
thus create an environment that is in alignment with my current needs. She goes on to say, my mental clarity allowed me to declutter my outside storage closet, bedroom, craft area, and half of my living room. Although there's still much to do, I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish this year.
Woohoo! I really love this report. Getting clear on who you are right now and then using that understanding to filter your belongings. That's a wonderful shift in perspective. And clearly, it allowed you to then make a whole bunch of movement in the house based on the reports of all the areas that you worked through already. That is a great new skill to take into 2025. Go team, go.
Okay, we have time for one more on this topic. Marcia says, I got a diagnosis of an illness that made me feel the need for a death decluttering. We're sorry to hear that. She says, I looked into all my financial accounts and consolidated them into a simple plan for my heirs.
Mm.
Marcia went on to say that she sorted out an issue with beneficiaries on some of her accounts, and she took lots of other important steps to get her estate in order. She says, it is truly a labor of love to declutter for those we love before our eventual inevitable demise.
It is a labor of love. You're right. To support your family in that way. It sounds like you're doing chores that will make it easier for your family, and that truly is a gift to them. I totally relate to that and I've been a part of that experience for clients and also had that own experience myself when my mother passed away. And it is really helpful for you to do the thinning out so that you're not leaving a huge project for your kids to work on while they're suffering and sad that for their loss. And so good for you. Good for you that you're working on it, and good for you that that was your response to your diagnosis. It's a way to be in motion and a way to focus on something that will have a good result and a positive effect on you and on them. And I'm really proud of you for that. Good job.
Okay, let's go on.
Okay.
The second question we asked our viewers and listeners was to name 2 or 3 areas of your home, categories of stuff, or collections on which you'd like to focus your attention in 2025. And so here's where we start talking about planning.
Right. What's going next?
Zoe says, I have a few boxes in the garage labeled to sell, things that I don't feel comfortable donating, mostly because of their historic specialness, where I want a special collector to own, or where I know I can list for a significant enough amount. I also have a
Okay.
couple of tubs labeled correspondence, basically every letter I've ever received, including things like a big bundle of 30-plus-year-old letters from a brief boyfriend in the Navy. Why the heck haven't I tossed those? I'm just hugely sentimental about my younger years.
Any stuff that needs to go to a special person or through a special process to sell is an added project to-do list in the downsizing decluttering process. You've isolated a few populations that require special attention. And now that you've gotten past the move itself, you can take the time to focus on these populations. I would certainly make it a goal to handle these in 2025 so you can really get complete with your move and tackle those letters one small batch at a time. Reading old letters and deciding it can go will take some time, but old letters from a minor boyfriend back in the day, those can certainly be thinned out. You don't need all 30 letters, so maybe pick a representative sample of 4 letters instead, especially since he's not part of your life now and wasn't a big part of it then. You can honor your younger self even without keeping everything you got. Aim for a sampling instead of all of the letters, right? The memories are in your head anyway, and so just having a sampling of all of the letters that you've kept. I'm sure there was 30 from that one boyfriend, there's probably multiple letters from individual people, and so each collection of letters between one person you can thin down and keep the representative sample. And this is a perfect example of why keeping a representative sample is important. you know Make a keepsake box of letters and the letters need to fit in the box. Don't keep letters and then find a box to fit it. Find the box that you want to use and then make the collection fit into it. Use that as the parameter. And good luck. We can't wait to hear, okay, I'm complete now with everything.
Allison says there's a large piece of furniture that won't fit into my car. A friend offered her car, but that likely won't happen this month, so it'll be early 2025 when it's done. I'm looking forward to the empty space when the furniture is gone.
That will be a big impact when it's done. Furniture pieces have such a huge footprint. You could even rent a U-Haul for it if your friend's car doesn't work. Renting a U-Haul for the day is pretty cheap, and you really probably only just need like a pickup truck version of a U-Haul instead of something that attaches to a car. So you can get something small, or you can rent a van. They have vans as well,
Yeah, and
and
small trucks that are pretty easy to drive.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so rent it for $20 for the day, and get the piece of furniture in there and go take it where you need it to go, and then it's gone. Totally worth it. Good luck on
Dawn
that. Come and tell us about it.
Dawn says started talking about what she needs to tackle in 2025 by saying paper in all caps with 3 exclamation points. So that sounds important.
Right? Sounds really important.
But she went on to say decluttering my wardrobe due to a 30-pound weight loss.
Hey, that's
Yay,
good.
Dawn.
Okay. Right. Work and roll. So clearly, that's a significant enough weight loss that there will be some clothes that will just hang on you and look terrible. So or try to fall off. So especially around pants and skirts, you don't want things that are just going to fall off. So going through your wardrobe now and trying to let go of things that are absolutely unwearable. There's some things that will be big on you, but it'll still be okay to wear. But a lot of it will just be falling off. So time to go dig in and do it. And paper is a short label for a large project, I'm sure. So dive in and make 2025 your year to really thin out the paper and get it under control.
Kate says books are a category in progress. I want to read what I have, starting with my least favorite ones and moving them on.
That's an unusual process for books. Starting with the least favorites,
Well,
I was surprised
she's
that.
saving the best for last.
I guess so. You can give it a go and notice if reading the least favorite ones slows down your reading progress. I'm just wondering if being annoyed or bored or not as interested means that you don't get through them as quickly. So don't forget you can stop without finishing it if the book doesn't keep your interest, and you can move along. And if you find that that you're starting with the least favorites means that you're not having as much fun, or you're disinclined to read, then maybe you can do a few least favorites and then a favorite, and you can switch back and forth to keep your interest and keep rolling. I love that idea. Let's read your way out of some books and get them out of the house.
Yvonne says in 2025, I would like to focus on my kitchen, desk, and craft area. These represent the heart of the family, my primary place of work, and my main clutter magnet.
That's a great plan. Hitting all the main areas that you function in, doing those in 2025 will really increase your enjoyment of the house. And like you said, here's the family, here's where I work, here's my clutter magnet area. So you're basically hitting the highlights, and that will if you can tame those, that will make a huge difference in how you exist in your house and function in your house. So good plan. Come back and tell us how it went.
I want to share a few comments from the chat before they all get away from me.
Okay.
So, Rowan says, in 2025, I will work on decluttering the idea that I have to fix everything for everyone,
Oh, that's a good one to let go of. Yes. You're
right?
not in charge of everyone.
Let's see. Susie says I need to get rid of a lot of paper in 2025. I'll bet a lot of people are in that camp.
Hmm.
Um, Sumutra says my first goal for 2025 is to be able to walk through my apartment barefoot without getting my feet dirty.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a very one. Get the Swiffer out. Get the Swiffer out, get the vacuum out. Let it duster on a stick. Let it go.
Okay, let me share a couple more from the survey. Cheryl says the dreaded basement. My husband
Mm.
retired this month, so I am encouraging him to donate duplicates of hand tools, old paint, stained, varnish, etc.
So you've made his first retirement honeydew. I can see. Well, I'm guessing he's not going to be super enthusiastic to get started on that right off the bat. You may have to give him a minute to settle into his retirement routines. After that, find out if he has the same goals as you for the basement. You need to be sure that you're aiming for the same end result. If you are, then you can plan that project together. But if he has other plans for the basement, then you need to get clear on what he wants to do there, and you can both compromise around that. Regardless of the plan, disposing of the old paints and the old varnishes, etc., works in any plan that you create between you. And so does donating duplicate tools, unless the tools are his collection. You know, everybody has their collection of favorite stuff. And if tools is his collection, then you have to talk about right sizing his collection to remove excess duplicates. Also, you can talk about the work for the kids to dispose of his tool collection after he's gone, just a way to focus his attention on, do I really need 437 tools in the basement? Maybe not. If it's something that he likes to collect and he likes to play with and he's very handy and he does projects all the time, that's one thing. But if he's just collecting them to be collecting them and he doesn't do anything with them, then having a conversation about, let's go through and pick the collection of stuff that you actually would use and surrender the other stuff to somebody who is, more active on fixing things than you are, dear. And give him a minute to be retired before you start making the to-do list of things he's supposed to handle.
Or he'll suddenly decide he needs to be a Walmart greeter in his
Right?
retirement or something. He'll
He will
find a way to get
bolt.
out of there. Uh,
Right.
Peggy really liked the question. She says, "This is a juicy one. I have already been working on all the supplies in the linen closet and medicine cabinet, but now am wondering whether I went as far as I could.
Mm,
It is much better than it was, but I do still have a box of stuff I don't regularly use in my linen closet. May need to look at that. Also, the garage where things go to marinate."
'Tis the season to work in the garage. Better to be cold while you work than sweating like crazy in the summer months. So hit that garage while you can adjust your clothing to stay comfortable while you work. Get a bagster or similar junk container and let that stuff hit the road. For the rest of the house, making a second or a third pass is a great way to peel the onion layers. We always err on the side of caution when letting go of things, but several months later, those things we kept to be cautious seem like obvious giveaways now. Also, as we do more decluttering, we get better at it and more confident in our decisions. So, areas that we worked on earlier in the process can usually benefit from going over again just because we've gotten better at letting go of things that we don't need. So, going back over places you've already worked will yield more donations and lessen your home management burden, I promise. Be worth going back through it again. As you can see from all these survey responses, you're all thinking about some serious organizing projects for 2025. And how can you go about that? So we're going to make a list of planning your organizing project. And this is where you can take notes if you want.
We're also gonna we're also gonna boil this down to a more brief version for the tittle. So you may want to come back and listen to this section again later. We'll have in the tittle on the website, we'll have a link that will take you right to where you can start listening at this point.
Right? So you can follow the steps again.
Yeah.
Okay, so step one is decide on a project. And yeah, I know you guys, those of you that took the survey and actually wrote in the survey, you're already ahead on this step. Those survey answers reflected you've got some great ideas of specific areas to tackle. And remember to make the project a narrow one if you're in that planning phase of the project. You want to have a narrow focus like clear out the linen closet as opposed to get the house organized. Get the house organized is not specific enough. You want to be able to focus on a specific endpoint that you can aim for and be able to know when you've actually achieved your goal. So clear out the linen closet, refresh the pantry, do the bathroom cabinets, clear up the living room, make some very specific targeted project areas to focus on.
Well, and if your big problem areas are huge and overwhelming, you'll have to break those down too. So like finally settle my paper problem once and for all. is a recipe for failure, but
Right?
but process the papers I've been holding on to since 2022 might be manageable for you, you know?
Right. Hmm.
So so you got to make it something that you could reasonably do in a year or
A pretty
less.
defined step, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty defined step. That's the goal. Then step two is you want to plan for what the supplies are that you're going to need for this project. So as you think about the project, what supplies do you need? Trash bags, recycle bags are always at the top of the list. Donation bags are good. There's also supplies needed during the cleanout part of the project, but don't forget the supplies you might need in the setup part of the project too. When you buy supplies, think about how you might want to the end result to look and how you want that to function, and speculate on some of the supplies you might need when you get that far. I wouldn't run out and buy those things. You can buy them later. You just want to think about what might be useful in during the decluttering process, and then also in the organizing process when you're putting things back and setting things up to function and this new systems you're going to create. Thinking about what you might want to use there, and maybe doing a little product research while you're at it to find out whether your ideas are in your budget or not. That's something that makes it worth makes you feel more prepared, but you can go and buy it when you get that far down the process. When it's time to go reinstall, then you can go and buy things that you need to add in. Step number three is evaluate if major purchases are needed to complete the project. Maybe you're trying to organize your garage, so does that mean that you need new shelving in there or slat walls, or maybe you need an overhead storage thing that raises and lowers to put specific things up in the top of the garage? Are you ready to invest in a major structure overhaul to improve the room's function? If you have a budget to do that, great. And it's time for some product research, like maybe a garage storage company or a closet system company that can be installed by professionals. You might discover that major improvements are out of your budget once you start doing that research. And if so, that's no worries about that. There are lots of clever no-cost solutions out there as well. So just do a little Googling on inexpensive ways to improve the organization in your space. Lowe's and Home Depot have organization aisles now in their stores with lots of affordable products to improve the space. You may not be able to afford California closets, for instance, but you can vastly improve the function of any space on a budget with the right ideas. My only caveat here is don't view this project through the prism of products. You can't buy your way out of a clutter disaster. So plan for some options to purchase later, but wait on buying them until you've actually cleared out all the trash and all the donations first. You'll buy differently when you know what you're going to keep. And that keep pile is going to be a much smaller collection after you've done all the purging. The fourth step is decide. We talked about products, so now we're going to decide what services you'll need. Do you need to have furniture hauled off? Or do you need somebody to pick something big up and take it to the curb for heavy trash pickup? Do you need someone to help you because you have physical limitations? Do you want a new shelf installed or a hook hung up or junk hauled away? Maybe you'll need a cabinet or a desk from IKEA that's built out so that you can install a new storage unit that you've purchased. What kind of services do you think you'll need to help you complete this project? Plan on the types of services first, and then worry about who will provide the service second. Once you know what kinds of services you need, you can call friends to ask for advice. You can Google that service for providers in your area. You can check out Angie's List for ideas. Get creative and ask for help. But thinking about what needs to be done that you can't physically do yourself or that you need support with is all part of the planning so that you can be lining up those people to support you in that area. Just did that myself. Step five, plan the timing for the project. You can't know in advance how long this project will take. I'm sorry to say that, but you can guess how long it's going to take. So make that guess now and then double it, because we all allocate time for projects based on how long we want to work, not how long it will actually take. So if you said you think this is going to take 4 hours, then make a plan for 8 hours. If you think that it's going to take all weekend, then make a plan for 2 weekends. That way you'll be covered if it takes longer than you think. Next, you want to go to your calendar and schedule time to work on it. If you have lots of commitments, you may have to do the project in weekly increments for a couple of hours at a time until it's complete. Whatever works for your schedule, book time on your calendar that reflects your stamina and your energetic time of the day. Select a time when you'll be rested and fed and mentally alert. You know yourself, so find slots on the calendar that work for your strengths. And then block those slots out on the calendar and honor that commitment by not booking anything else during that time. And the last step, of course, is executing the plan. Right now, concentrate on thinking your way through the project that you want to accomplish and plan how to get there. You'll be so much more willing to get started if you've spent some time contemplating and designing your end result. Plans can change. You're not locked into anything, but having a picture in mind of the outcome, people lined up to help, and time scheduled on the calendar is the perfect place to start off the new year. And then you'll be ready to tackle that organizing challenge and get the result you want, which is what we always want for you. So come do this, come back and tell us how it's going, report in, and get whatever advice you need from us to keep going. And we look forward to hearing about that from you.
Okay, let's see what I can find in the comments to share before we have to wrap up. We have a few minutes to spare here. On the subject of selecting the project, Samudra says, clutter is general. Being overwhelmed by it is a general feeling. Decluttering is specific. Getting a little off of a few layers feels specifically satisfying.
True, isn't it? Because anytime you go and disrupt something that's become static and you shuffle it around, change it, move it, thin it out, it does feel different and it feels like you've accomplished something. And that's a very good insight, Samudra.
JB says the goal for 2025 is to walk through apartment with having to play Twister around the piles.
That's a great visual. And that is will be much safer for you. If you're having to do Twister to get through the apartment, you don't want to have to work that hard. You just want to be able to walk through the room, right? And so that improving your mobility in the space is a great goal to keep in mind. I want to be able to walk through here easily and without thinking about it and without twisting, which is wonderful. That means you've started to feel the cubic volume of your space. That's usually what that reflects. And so it's time to unwind that cubic volume so that that you have empty spaces and empty air to walk through. Good for you.
Okay, I want to talk about the next few weeks. So as I mentioned at the top, this is our last live episode of 2024. We're going to be
Woohoo.
taking the next 2 weeks off so we can get some R&R and also do some planning of our own on what we're going to do with the Clutter Fairy Weekly in 2025. So watch your email in the coming weeks because we are preparing some little videos to come out while we're gone so that you get
Pre-recorded material.
your little taste of the Clutter Fairy when you need it, when you need your fix. Um, but then we'll be back for to kick off the new year on January 7th, 2025. And we're going to do a back to the basics show. We figure since we've given you the chore for the next 3 weeks of
Making a plan.
making some plans for organizing projects, we're going to refresh your memory about what you do next after that for the execution with a back to basics show on January 7th. Watch your email for announcements. One of our plans for 2025 is to get further ahead with our own planning. And so we have actually mapped out 12 sort of thematic areas we want to cover in the first quarter of next year. I don't have specific topics and titles for all of those yet, but we're gonna see if we can tackle that over the next 3 weeks. So we can start 2025 by giving you a longer timeline of shows to
Upcoming topics.
look forward to.
Mm,
One of the things we're going to revisit is it's been a few years since we sort of made our way around the house. And so at least once a quarter, we're going to talk about, a specific room. I think we're going to start in January with the kitchen, probably,
that's a good
because
one.
January is a good time to get your kitchen back in order after you've destroyed it in November, December.
True that.
And then we will, fill out the calendar with themes like clutter and your emotions. We want to do more shows about productivity and time management. We're hoping to bring in someone who is more expert than either of us on that topic. So those are some things you can look forward to from us in 2025.
Right.
Gail, why don't you give us the tittle?
Okay, this week's tittle is not going to be surprising to you. It's titled Make a Plan. The assignment for the next 3 weeks is a more ambitious one than we usually give you. We want to create a project plan for one of your 2025 decluttering and organizing goals. So I'm going to restate those steps really quickly here. Select a project, choose a specific project with a narrow definition like clear out the linen closet. Step 2, plan for supplies. Make a list of supplies you expect to need, like trash or recycling bags, donation bags or boxes, file folders, labeling tools, materials, etc. And then also supplies that you might need in the reinstall to help with the organization. Step 3, consider whether any major purchases will be needed to complete the project. Are you going to buy custom shelving or storage solutions or invest in a major structural overhaul to improve the room's function? This is the time to consider that. Step 4, decide what services you'll require. Will you need to have furniture or trash hauled off? Do you need someone to help you because you have physical limitations? Will your project involve expert installations or renovation? And then step 5, plan the timing for the project. Make a tentative guess about how long the project will take, and then go to your calendar and schedule some time on it. And for that longer discussion that we had earlier about uh, project planning process for this tittle, we encourage you to go back and listen to the show. And we're going to tell you what time stamp in the recording that starts so that you can just go there and re-listen to it if you need to help, if you need the support helping make the plan, executing the steps. So
You're
you
always
got three
welcome to
works.
You're all always welcome to listen to the whole show again, but we're going to try and
Right?
save you the trouble and go straight to the part where we
The
start
tittle
talking about the
support,
project plan. Yeah.
right?
So,
And then you got your 3 weeks. Let's, make a plan so that you can start the new year with an idea of what you're going to do and when. And when you make the plan, come back and tell us about it on the 7th. We'll be happy to hear all about it.
okay, we have time for a few more comments. So I'm gonna jump back into the comments.
Okay.
Um, Wolf, who's watching on Facebook, says, "We got through the year. That was success this year. We're trying to
I
set
can agree.
ourselves, we're trying to set ourselves up to be able to be successful in the future, though."
Good job. I totally agree with you. I feel like my whole year I made a right turn and went somewhere I had no idea it was happening. So I got through the year and I'm walking again, sort of. So that is a big improvement for me for sure. We will look forward to 2025 being more successful. How's that?
There you go. Maureen says, "I will be rewatching and taking notes. Many thanks, Gail and Ed, for all the advice and inspiration in 2024." And then she reports, "I made a path in my basement."
Ooh, that's a good one. Making a path in the basement is a good one because it is definitely out of sight, out of mind room that people throw stuff in and forget about. So if you've gotten into it, good job. And you're welcome. We appreciate that you listen and you can get support here while you're working on your projects. Thanks.
Mel has a hand up. I think that's probably Marsh. Do you want to unmute
Yeah.
yourself and talk to us live here?
What's happening, Mel?
Maybe not. Maybe Mel's just trying to get to the start of the line for after we're finished recording.
Okay.
That's fine. We'll come back to Mel.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to do something uncharacteristic and end a little early today.
Oh,
Usually we run out of time long before we run out of prepared comments, and
right.
today we actually managed to do it in the allotted time. If you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please send us your questions, comments, and topic suggestions on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through the website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
I can't believe we got to the end of the year, you guys. It's quite shocking.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh,
Oh, there's Mel.
Hi,
I'm
Mel.
I'm here.
Okay, we're interrupting for Mel to come on. What's happening?
Just a 1 minute, please,
Of
Floor.
course.
Everybody, Gail, Ed, I'm so grateful to be here. As you were just saying, I almost didn't say anything. Of course, my life took a turn too this year. And of course, I'm going to tear up. Clutter Fairy
Aw.
Tribe, every single one of you. I read the podcast 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I am so grateful for every single one of you and your journeys, more than you've given me gifts and compassion and inspiration. Ed, your voice, just to hear your voice, hear your laughter, has guided me to stay and do with the clutter. I am moving, I am clearing my home. I took on my math class, and though I did not pass, my effort with the school and my professor was an A plus. So a round of applause whenever you want. And right now I want to focus on
Yay.
Gayle Goddard.
Oh,
Gayle, you have done the most amazing podcast since August. You have gifted me, and I want to tell you all, this is what I've learned. It's processing with purpose. And every
Mhm.
single day, every week, every month, I took another box. I moved a pile of papers to the point where I am now selling my home and getting ready to move into a more healthy, inspirational entity, though I did have to take a small storage unit for my piano.
Oh.
Only holding it until we can move it in June. Gayle Goddard, from my
Yes.
heart to yours and everything you've created, the
Aw.
thousands of us who you've saved and gifted and just who you are. I have to, from my heart to yours, reach out and give you the biggest shout out. And I thank you for letting me come on at the last minute today. I'm
Of
so proud
course. Of
to be
course.
proud of Clutter Fairy. And
Oh,
that's all I want
thank
to say. Merry
you.
Christmas, Happy New Year, and we are going to be alive in 25, folks.
Yay.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
And that's all I
Thank
wanted to say.
you.
Thank you for letting me. And I love the background. So
Oh,
that's
thanks. Yeah, that's 2025.
Merry
Oh,
Christmas.
thank
Merry
you. Happy
Christmas.
holidays to everybody. I really appreciate you, Mel. Thanks so much. This is why we do what we do, because we want to help you guys get there. And she has been going through a process, and it's been a while, and she's making big headways and making big changes. So great success. Glad to hear about it. And thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Oh, I will make one more note before we close, which is for those of you who took the survey or didn't but have enjoyed the survey responses, we aren't done with the third question. The third question was for a future episode, so you still have that to look forward to. That's things that inspire and
Oh, right.
energize you. So we
Right.
didn't forget. It'll be coming up soon.
It's coming in one of the recorded ones.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, thank you so much for being with us. I hope you have a lovely holiday. Go forth and make your plan for 2025. And we're gonna hit it in January, and we will see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.